That picture is a classic.
It really is. 1950 in Germany.
I was told that I'm the one with the stick. My mom.
She
But I'm
might-
sure Mom told you the same thing. Oh yeah, it was uncanny. Hardly anybody could tell us apart. I think my mother really conned both of us. When I would go to Mom with this picture and say, "Mom, who's that with the stick?" She would say that was you. And then when Chet would go to Mom with this picture, she would say that was him. Where very few people could actually tell us apart, and those are only people that were closest to us.
Guess what? It's me with the stick.
Well, who is it?
Vietnam, we used to call it the Nam.
A very beautiful country, yes. From seashore to the mountains, it was one beautiful country. Plush green valleys and white sand, like you wouldn't believe. Literally miles and miles and miles of beautiful.
Even the rice paddies, they're not like rice paddies like
Beautiful,
people
green.
would think of a rice paddy.
No.
There were tree lines, there were
Oh, yeah.
huge boulders, there were villages, all within the rice paddies. We had 3 villages, Fuqua 1, Fuqua 2, Fuqua 3. I was in Fuqua 1, and that was friendly. That was our village. But we had Fuqua 2 and Fuqua 3, and both were known VC villages. And they were separated by rice paddies and tree lines. We both had jobs since we were like 12, 13 years, 14 years old. He worked at Markowitz's, and then he worked at the Linebacks, and I worked at Markowitz's. One was a grocery store, one was a hardware store. One time we switched, and they didn't know who was working for who. We had them going. I told him, I said, I'm tired of working at Markowitz's. I want to go to Linebacks today. He said, okay, I'll go to Markowitz's today. But the owners didn't know one of us from the other. And I took the rap for him a couple of times in high school.
It was gambling, and they frowned on gambling.
We used to pitch quarters in high school, pitching quarters up against the wall, and the closest quarter wins.
And what happened was the teacher saw me.
And I was off to the side. He was up against the wall with a bunch of other guys pitching quarters, and the teacher snuck up on him.
From the second or third floor window, I forget his name, but he yelled out, "I got you now, Bob." You know, and I can hear him from the window, and I go, "Oh, Christ."
And he saw 3 or 4 guys pitching quarters, and he picked my brother out, but I didn't see any of this. I was off to the side. And next thing I know, my brother comes over and he says, "Hold this."
But I just took my jacket off, gave it to George, said, "Hold this." And if he come down, he grabbed George, you know.
So I'm standing there holding it, and the teacher comes down and says, "I got you now." I went, "What? What? You were pitching quarters?" "No, I wasn't." "Yes, you were. I saw you." Boom, in the office I go. I took the rap. Yeah, I got like 3 days detention for that. Yeah, didn't say nothing. But I'm sure he took the rap for me a couple of times, so it evens out. That's the kind of stuff we used to do.
The only thing that ever got anybody ready for Vietnam would have been the way they were raised and if they had enough confidence in themselves.
My brother was already in the Army. He had joined the Army.
As soon as you drop out of college, the school sends you papers in that tells them that you're no longer a student and they draft you.
I knew I was going to get drafted, and I did get drafted. You know, the Army sent me a letter after I had joined the Marine Corps, drafting me, one of those greetings from the President of the United States.
Most of the times, what you did is you were a replacement. When you got out of basic, you went to AIT, and then you went to NAM. because somebody was killed or somebody's coming home. It was a constant replenishment, always replacing. Not when I went over. We went, our entire base went, you know. That's what we were there for.
But you know what? I really believe that you handle it better if you embrace it from the get-go. In other words, I wanted to go to Vietnam. I embraced the fact that I was going to go. You can always fall back on the decision that you made, that you actually wanted to do this. I got my reasons for wanting to do it, and I'll tell you what, my mother and father had a lot to do with the reasons.
Well, Grandpa told me that I'll be all right, I'll make it. So he told me that he made it through World War II, and I'll make it through Vietnam. He took me to the induction center, Fort Holabird. That's the last thing he said to me. He says, me and your mother lived through World War II, and you'll live through this. It's kind of neat.
I wanted to get over there, and so I don't forget my training. I wanted to implement everything I had learned. I really did. I was gung-ho, that's the word. I was gung-ho, and they did that to you. That's what the Marine Corps does in boot camp. That's what they did back then. They probably do it now. They break you down and rebuild you to their liking. And I was like that too. Nobody escapes that. And you come out gung-ho. You really do. And you just want to kill. Really, you do.
When I first got there, we were losing a helicopter and a crew member a day. You know, all my buddies were getting killed one by one. We had a real bad one time. We were coming into an LC just like Apocalypse Now, 10 of us, 10 ships strong. And we're bringing troops in. Well, I'll tell you what, those 10 helicopters got 6 feet off the ground when this shit hit the fan. And I mean, next thing I knew, I hear Apollo hollering, my gunner's hit, my crew chief's hit. And I look back and smoke, and one helicopter's down, on fire, one's cut in half. They had anti-aircraft guns, pom-pom guns. We circle around, and I unloaded about 600 rounds into the trees there. And then we went around to the other side, and my gunner hit the same spot so that we could go down. We did pull all those helicopters out of there. It was one of those where, oh yeah, we're okay, it's a secure LZ. We B-52 this LZ for 3 days. Ain't nobody here. Right. It happened all the time.
You really want to hear this? Okay. God, I remember it so well. We were in a convoy. We were going through a village. And there was this one truck. And I was ready to get on it. But the last guy that got on said, no more room. And he took off. So I let it go. And I got on the next truck. And there's it's like a 50-foot embankment on the right side of the road. This road is like on the side of a hill. And all of a sudden, we got hit. Somebody threw a hand grenade. The truck in front of me, the one I was supposed to get on, lost its brakes and went over the cliff. And dropped all the way down and landed on its back. And all 30 guys are buried underneath this truck, 50 feet down. I ran down the hill, me and a bunch of other guys. We pulled out our knives and we started digging. We started cutting the packs and dragging these guys out from underneath the truck. The whole operation took about 4 hours, and it was in the middle of the night, and I was dead tired. When we got to that last guy, he didn't make it.
I had an M79 grenade launcher, well, a blooper we called it. I would shoot one of these rounds off every once in a while, and the pilot could hear us. Boop. So he'd look, see where it would hit. One of the rounds went off. It went boop. And he's looking. And I'm going. And he's looking. He goes, I heard it, says, but I didn't see where it landed. Did it go off? I says, it went off. It went right through the roof of the chopper. It had a hair trigger on it. I bounced it off my knee, and the round went right through the roof of the chopper, and it probably hit the blades. It had a spiral detonation system, and it had to go 40 feet before it would arm itself. So when it hit that roof, it was only a foot, a foot or two. So automatically it was not armed as soon as it went off. So luckily for that, that's why we didn't shoot ourselves down. If it had blew, it would have shot us off. We'd have crashed. Yeah. But the pilot was a little upset. So he landed the helicopter, and the first thing he said was, "Don't let the old man see this. I want this chopper in the hangar right now." And this is like in the evening, and Henderson was the sheet metal guy. I had to wake him up. He was sleeping. I said, "You got to fix this hole before the old man sees it." The old man was a CO.
You know what AD is? Accidental discharge. I kept my weapon on full automatic, and we had a trigger guard. Well, we used to break that son of a bitch off. There was a guy in my unit, we called him John Henry. And me and him, we had some disagreements. I didn't like the guy. All right, it's that simple. Well, one day, we're on this trail. He's down in front of me, and he gets up on this log. It's a tree that fell. And I'm in this thick brush. Now, I got my M16 on full automatic, and I got the trigger guard taped to the handle. I'll never forget this. I'm going to go to my grave remembering this, because it's like it happened yesterday. I'm walking through this thick brush, and I feel a tug on my right arm, and that's where I'm carrying my weapon, my M16. And I look down, and there's a vine wrapped around the trigger. But before I could stop what I was doing, I pulled on it, and that fucking M16 went off. And it went right across that tree that John Henry was walking on. And that's called an accidental discharge. And John Henry came running up the hill, hollering to the lieutenant, "He's trying to kill me." And I never did like the guy, but I never tried to kill him.
When we were pulling out the wounded out of Bastogne, we got called into the ambush, and we put the chopper between two tanks. I was letting go of an M60, and what had happened was the two tanks had 50 cals on them. So one of the 50 cals stopped firing, and I'm looking at it, and it was red hot. The barrel was red, and it was melting. The guy who was firing the 50 cal took these asbestos gloves, gigantic gloves, and just put them on him, and he grabs this barrel of this 50 cal, it's red hot, and he twists and throws it off to the side, and grabs a brand new barrel, throws it back on there, and starts shooting again. In the meantime, my pilot is hollering, "Go get the wounded, go find the wounded." And I'm going, as soon as he starts shooting that 50 again, I'm out of here. But I wasn't going to stop until he got that gun going. Both 50s were going to us. Stowed the M60 and took off. The guy was hit with a 50 caliber. It had to be a big round, maybe an AK. AK could have did it. It hit him in the shoulder and took his arm off completely, just severed it. We were on the ground at the time, taking wounded. Two guys had him, and they were running down the hill with this guy, hollering and screaming. They wanted us to hold up to take this guy to a hospital. And I go to help him. And he's got no arm, bleeding profusely, and I grab all the skin around his arm, and I jump in the chopper with him, and I'm holding him, and I'm just holding it all really tight, like a tourniquet, for about 15 minutes while we're flying. And he's alive, and he's doing pretty good. They shot him up with morphine and got him to the hospital. Hopefully he made it without an arm, but
They woke us up in the middle of the night. They made us clean our rifles at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking, these fucking guys are nuts. They put us all on these choppers. 3 platoons. 20, 30 guys in each chopper. En route, we hear that we're coming in as a reactionary for the 4th Marines who are getting their ass kicked on this fucking hill. I'm thinking, oh shit, this is going to be great. I didn't know it at the time, but what happened was, as these choppers were dropping us in, they were going on the other side of the hill, picking up the 4th Marines and taking them out. They chopper us in, and it's raining, muddy as shit. This hill is so steep, the helicopter's rear wheels never touch the ground. And as soon as he touches down, all hell breaks loose. Fucking bullets are going through the helicopter. He's leaving. But there's guys still on the helicopter. And these guys are just falling out onto this side of this mountain that's just nothing but mud. And I went into the mud up to my knees. I lost my helmet, and bullets are singing every which way. They're flying all over the place. It was utter chaos. It really was. It was ridiculous. And when I got to the crest of the mountain, I finally got up and I brushed myself off. I'm soaked in rain and wet. And I look around and there's dead gooks everywhere. They're laying on the fucking side of the trail. They're hanging out of the fucking trees. I got some of my guys are going, poking them in the fucking eye. They're all bloated, stink. Awful. And it's raining. Whew. So anyway, I'll go up this trail, and I see this dead gook, and I see that belt. So I just take it off of him, throw it over my shoulder, keep going up the trail. And that's how I got that belt. And I carried that belt with me the whole time I was there. It's the one thing I wouldn't let go. Because I didn't know if I was ever going to get another one.
what I did was went to the CO and signed a 1049. It's a form for volunteers. Anytime you sign a 1049, that means no matter what's on the head,
Tell them what happened.
You volunteered.
After you signed.
after I signed, there's no turning back once you sign. You're going.
Right. But now the U.S. has a dilemma.
Well, now they have to send George home.
Right. They can't keep us both there because of the Sullivan Act.
Sullivan Act. So he did not sign a 1049.
Right.
He did not volunteer to go. He was sent there because no other family member was there
at the time.
But now someone who volunteered is going there, so he has to come home. It put the government in a bad spot.
Yeah.
They have to get some feet shuffling here and get some things.
It's not easy to do.
And they were pretty slow about it. It was interesting.
It was. That's how we both ended up in the month of February of 1969. We were actually in country together.
March, too.
Man, part of March.
When did you get out?
Probably a late March. When I went over to middle of March when I finally hit Okinawa. And I know you came in February, right, of 69? Yeah. So we were there 6 weeks together. But I could tell you stories all fucking night if you want to listen to them. Oh yeah, I have memories.
I can't forgive. There's no way. Can't do it.
I've been suppressing them for 40 fucking years. You know, what are you going to do? Now you want me to bring them out.
Lost too many good people. They go fuck themselves. I'd love to go back over there in a helicopter with an M60 machine gun.
He never threw an incendiary grenade into a hooch with 30 women and kids and burned them all up. I saw that. And I couldn't believe it was happening. Yeah. Saw some real atrocity. It was bad. We were in the middle of a firefight when it happened. And I remember carrying a kid with his leg blown off by a 50 caliber machine gun. Just a little baby. Couldn't have been more than a year or two old.
Bye, Chris.
It died. I mean, lost all its blood. What are you gonna do? It was hard. We're trying to save our own lives, fight the enemy, and save the lives of innocent people at the same time. Talk about hard. It was hard. Every time we got into a firefight. We knew the people were okay, but the Viet Cong they were in there. And our job was to flush them out. And if the people got in the way, so be it. That's how it was. You grew up real fast, and you had to. You know, it was weird. It was weird, but when you came back, you actually felt, even though I wasn't even 21 yet, I actually felt like I had survived something incredible and lived to tell about it and grown up. And now I need to deal with it. The war didn't end till 75. I'm getting married in 71. You know, but I still have that as a memory, and the war's still going on, but I'm trying to forget all this and just go on with my life. It was not easy. Believe me, it was not easy. But you know, even now, it's hard to talk about it to people who you feel, who I feel, don't really understand what went on during that time. Everybody talks about, what is that syndrome? Post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, I'm sure I had it. I'm sure I probably have it now. I was diagnosed at one time. I'll bet all them Iraqi guys had it, but I'll also tell you my mother and father had it too. And they lived through it, and you gotta tough it out. You know, I don't think there's any medication for that. I don't blame the war on anything that's ever happened to me since the war or after it. I mean, it's life is what it is. You know, I saw my mother and father. They went through a war, and they handled it, as far as I'm concerned, tremendously. And that sticks in the back of my mind. And I always said to myself, I want to handle it as good or better than they did. And they went through hell.
You could have been born in a communist country. You could have lived your life under communist rule. Think it would have been better? Probably not.
The point is, you live through it and you're happy you did. You know some people who didn't, and you move on and you make the best of your life, and that's the point.
We as a family probably we owed going. We paid our debt to America by going to Vietnam. Freedom is expensive, but somebody has to pay the debt to cover yourself underneath the blanket of freedom.